Good afternoon, everybody. Happy homecoming week. Happy homecoming week. Yay, yay, yay. Yes, yes. Happy homecoming. It is appropriate that we have someone from the UND Alumni Association and Foundation join us for this week's 1883. I should start by saying, for those I don't know, my name is Cassie Gerhardt, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Senior Associate Vice President for Student Affairs, and it is my pride today to introduce my friend and colleague, Sarah Prout, the Vice President for Marketing and Communications at the UND Alumni Association and Foundation. Please join us in a round of applause as Sarah comes to the stage.
It was pouring the rain the night I met him. I had just gotten off a late night flight. I was cold, delayed, completely exhausted, and a head full of stars. Head full of ideas and plans that I had forgotten to do, let alone remembered. As I walked into the hotel lobby, it was half lit. The deep blue hush of 2 a.m. silence. And there he was, the man behind the check-in desk. He was somewhere in his 60s, his hair was silvered, and a warmth behind his eyes like he had remembered something the rest of us had forgotten. He didn't say much at first. As I checked in, he handed me my room key and then proceeded to tell me that room service had left a sandwich in my room that I hadn't even asked for. I stopped, I looked at him, and I said, "How did you know I'd need that?" And he looked at me and shrugged and said, "People traveling late at night, exhausted in the rain, usually means they haven't eaten." I stood there with my suitcase handle in one hand and something else in the other, finally seeing like I'd felt more seen than I had in weeks, like someone had chosen to read the weather inside of me rather than just outside. We meet thousands of people in our lifetime. Most fade into the background like faces in a crowd we barely recognize, but a few stay with us quietly, steadily, long after they've left the room. Not because they were loudest, not because they had the corner office or the perfect resume. I don't know, maybe because they didn't immediately unsubscribe from your newsletter that you remembered them. No, but because in their presence you exhaled. You felt steady. You felt like you actually mattered. That's a rare kind of influence. It's the kind that doesn't storm into a room demanding attention. It literally shifts it because it was there. And yet somehow we act as if leadership is a constant of identifying, branding, strategy, optimization, maximizing potential, as if the loudest, flashiest, most perfectly curated version of ourselves wins every time. It rarely does. In a world obsessed with metrics, it's not the spreadsheet that people remember, it's how you made them feel. Being a good person, it still wins. It's not the quick win. It's not the your name in lights by Friday kind of win. It's the kind of win that comes years later. When someone comes up to you and says, "I stayed because you believed in me." We're so conditioned to think that this world is a constant of sharp elbows and loud opinions. But in every room, every team, every single family, I believe they're starving for something else. Honesty, integrity, kindness without cruelty. I went there. I said it, kindness without cruelty, because there's a version of that that exists. It's exhausting to maintain. And there will be times when kindness feels like weakness. When you've given so much of your light away, you're not sure you kept any for yourself. And those are the moments that you're going to hear your doubters the loudest, the ones who would quietly celebrate your failure. They're out there. The ones who didn't think you were sharp enough or tough enough or cut out for it. Let their imagined applause drive you forward, not with bitterness or to prove them wrong in some big cinematic event, but to prove to yourself that you were right to keep going. The guy at the front desk didn't have some leadership seminar to offer me. He didn't have a slogan, but in that moment, that look in his eyes, that sandwich taught me more about influence than any corporate offsite ever did. And that is why empathy is not just a nice to have. It isn't optional. I think it's the thing that changes everything. It's noticing when someone's smile is too heavy on their face. when no one has spoken in 20 minutes that you need to stop a meeting. It's empathy that lets you make someone else feel seen in a world that's constantly rushing to scroll past. We're all guilty of that. Here's the wild part. When kindness is present, stress levels drop. Cortisol, your stress hormone, can be up to 23% lower. Empathy just doesn't feel good. It literally changes the room. And companies who embrace cultures of empathy, they see 37% more revenue per employee. I guess it turns out kindness scales. I once had a manager who rarely spoke in meetings, complete stealth mode. For the longest time, I assumed she just wasn't paying any attention, until one day, during a pretty heated meeting that probably could have powered a small town with its tension, she looked at the employee who was spiraling and said, "Do you think maybe you're just scared?" The room went dead quiet, as you can about imagine. She wasn't loud. She was right. Because fear, when it surfaces, it's not the enemy. It reveals parts of ourselves that we still have growing to do. It shines a light on our blind spots, on parts of ourselves that are still learning to stand tall. And once you can see your weakness clearly, you get to choose to become kinder. And maybe, even more importantly, you get to choose to become stronger. Sometimes it's that simple. Even in classrooms, in a group project with a student who never says a thing until someone asks, "Hey, what do you think?" That small invitation can change everything. Empathy isn't just for classrooms and offices, it's for wherever we meet each other. Over time, I've realized that it doesn't take grand gestures. Sometimes it's slowing down long enough to realize when someone's carrying more than they let on. You can't lead people you don't understand. You can't build trust with someone that you've never asked about their story, and you certainly cannot build loyalty from someone you've only spoken to through bullet points. Understanding your people means you learn what lights them up, who they go home to, what recharges them. You understand them in a way that they don't have to always be telling you. And sometimes the best thing you can do is show up and ask, "Hey, what do you need from me today?" That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And here's a bit of a weird truth. A smile can disarm a storm. Think about that. And if you don't believe me, maybe think about the last time a child handed you a crayon drawing that was supposed to look like a cat, but looked more like a spaghetti monster. You smiled anyway, didn't you? That's the power of presence. It literally softens the moment. Be the person someone would trust in a storm, not because you have the answers, but because your presence, it doesn't make things worse. There are two truths in life that I have found myself repeating lately. I don't say them lightly. They didn't come from some TED Talk inspiration or a motivational poster. It came from grief, from rebuilding, from those seasons where you wake up without a plan, but just a simple promise that says, "I'll try again today." One truth came to me in early days of an incredible loss for our family. The other found me recently during a competitive cycling race. First came the tears and then the laughter, which I'm sure was quite the spectacle on my bike, but felt a lot like therapy, the good kind. Number one, growing older, that's a privilege. Not everybody gets to do it. Every scar, every wrinkle, every gray hair, chapters of your story. And here's the truth that I find that most people forget. Getting stronger, that's a choice. Mentally, physically, emotionally, you can be more curious at 60 than you were 20, braver at 75 than you were 35. And yes, maybe bravery looks a little like remembering where you last put your car keys. It still counts. Life doesn't wait for us to be ready, but it does invite us to grow. Especially in the moments that break us open. The trick is to choose growth, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's quiet, and even when no one's watching. Because there will be moments in life that demand your very best. And here's the catch. You don't always get a warning. The call can come in at 2 a.m. Maybe your team looks to you after a project has completely failed and no one knows what to do next, let alone what to even say. Maybe a loved one turns to you and says, I need you right now. Live in a way when the moment comes, you're already the person they'd hoped would walk through that door. There's a song I stumbled upon one night, Saturn by Sleeping at Last. Look it up, listen to it. It'll get you in your feels. There's a line in there that just stopped me though. How rare and beautiful it is to even exist. Think about that. In all the galaxies, in all the spinning stars, you exist here, right now, listening, loving, losing, trying again. Existence isn't something to endure. It's something to honor. What are you going to do with that miracle? Will people breathe easier because you are in the room? Will your presence be a gift or a weight? Years later, after that rainy night in the hotel, I found myself back in that city. Kind of wild. I checked in again, same hotel. I asked about the man behind the counter. The younger staff member looked at me and said, you mean Mr. Dale. He passed last year. He went on to tell me that they still call the late night sandwich the Dale Special, and that every new hire learns about him. He didn't leave behind millions. He didn't go viral, although he probably could have with the sandwich, #LateNightHero. I would have supported that. No, it was in the way he moved through life. Kind, steady, deliberate. It left marks that didn't fade. I believe that's what the Dalai Lama meant when he said, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping next to a mosquito. I laughed the first time I read that. Then I realized it's not just clever, it's true. Influence is not about being big. It's about being intentional. You don't have to be famous to make someone feel seen. You just have to bother to notice. For me, that's the thing about real legacy. It's not loud. It's lived quietly in the habits you choose every single day. It's not what you do when everyone's watching. It's how you react when things fall apart. When people look to you not because you have the answers, but because they trust your presence. That's the moment where your character either echoes or it vanishes. And if you've done the work, if you've chosen empathy, presence, patience, truth, then in that moment you don't crumble. You keep going because that's who you are. Not because of a title, and certainly not because of an applause, but because you built a life that doesn't need either to matter. So when the room goes quiet and the spotlight shifts and that storm hits, be the one they trust to walk into the dark first. Because in the end, the most powerful thing you can be is someone who kept showing up quietly, steadily, unshakably, and you made it safe for others to do the same. It's been an honor to be here with you today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Sarah. So now we can all take Sarah's advice and keep showing up. So there are lots of homecoming events to be at in the coming days, and one of them starts in 16 minutes. So in 16 minutes in the ballroom is Jose Hernandez, NASA astronaut. You'll see a guided conversation, so we hope you'll join us up there. In addition, tonight is the homecoming pep rally at 6 o'clock at Town Square, and a whole host of other events to celebrate all that's great at UND starting tomorrow, and with the homecoming parade and game on Saturday. So we hope to see you out there. And then we'll see you back here again on Wednesday, October 1st, where our featured 1883 speaker will be Soo-Jung Kim, the interim dean of the School of Graduate Studies. Have a great homecoming, everybody.